Hello everyone, welcome to another segment of Abalandeli Belanga. It's your host here, Unga Umlandeli Belanga, Unga Ungosonga Kokobi, coming to you on a Sunday afternoon. It's about midday, the day of the sun. The hour belongs to, it's probably the sun. It's probably the sun. So today I want to talk about virtual reality. Yesterday I watched a movie. It's interesting that actually Netflix suggested the movie to me, considering everything that is happening around us concerning the space of virtual reality. Is it Google? If I'm not mistaken, they've just launched. No, so it's Google or Facebook, or is it Mark together with? Who is he working with? Yes, but with Ray-Ban, yes, they've launched Ray-Ban sunglasses that augment the reality that you see. And so now, this movie I was watching yesterday, the technology had become so advanced that you literally don't have to leave your house. You can, as it's happening now, I'm sure a lot of gamers, you collect the points that you collect when you're playing games. That now in the virtual reality, that becomes now how you do your job, or how you earn, or how you make a living. And so now with that money that you make in that virtual world, you buy yourself gear in this world so that you can be able to be a better player, or feel better rather, so that everything that is happening in the game, you can feel it. If you get shot, you can feel it. If a woman touches you, it translates to the feeling that's happening in your body. So now, in this movie now, that's all they do. You wake up, you plug in, and that's all you do. That's how you get paid, and that's how the system is running. And now with the introduction of these virtual reality sunglasses, slowly but surely taking us towards that direction. And I'm of the opinion that it is neither good nor bad. It depends. It depends on how you use it. It depends on how you use it. Obviously, yes, a lot of us are gonna get hooked on it eventually. Yeah? The same way we are hooked on Facebook, as it's happened over the years, from the earliest days of Mixit and all these other texting platforms that actually came out. We always seem to fall into the trap of becoming too dependent on these things, but that's just human nature. So we cannot necessarily say virtual reality is going to be bad, or it's going to introduce us to more violence, or it's not going to do it. We could have said that about the rest of the technology that we've had coming up, and it has not been the case. So I really don't think it's something that we should fear. It's going to leave us with a lot of questions, because on the one RT video I saw where they were actually talking about it, there is it NASA? I can't remember who it is. They've actually created an entire galaxy worth of data that through virtual reality that you can actually put these things in, and then you can travel through the galaxy using the data that they've collected. You can zoom into planets, zoom into what's happening, zoom out, go to another one. Like, you can move around. So you can go forward, you can go backwards, you can move around it. It's going to be interesting to see how we process data, how we learn, because up until now, the images that we feed our conscious minds, are basically what molds or how our conscious mind speaks to us, whether it be through dreams or symbols or whatever. For example, if you're raised Christian, if you're dreaming anything and everything that you are seeing in those dreams, it's going to be based on a Christian context. You see something bright, hey, it's an angel. You see a man, bright, shining, or whatever, it's Jesus or it's God. You see something dark, shadowy looking, oh, it's the devil. Or if you're raised up in a system or in a mix, that is where you will be. So now there's the emergence now of abantu abamnyama who are believing now, or yes, it's a belief, just like all other ones, into the belief of the extraterrestrial. Let me rephrase that. They believe into the extraterrestrial doctrine. Yes, let me put it like that rather. The doctrine that yes, there's these guys waiting out just outside Earth's orbit, and they want to communicate with us. And if you're in that lot, then those spaces when you're dreaming, or when you're in deep meditation, or when you are in trance, that is what you will be seeing. That's what you see. And so now virtual reality is going to create a very interesting scenario for us, for our psyche, because a lot of us are going to find ourselves bombarded with a lot of images that the crevices of our minds, when they just did not have, which means the way you dream, how you perceive in your dreams, it's also going to change. But for me, the most interesting thing is going to be the scary realization, or the scary thought that it's going to get to a point where it is so good that once you are in there, you actually lose effect whether it is reality as in the flesh, or it's that line between reality and the virtual reality. It's going to get blurred the same way it's partially blurred when you're watching a movie and you're really into the movie. At some points that line does blur, and you find yourself rising and falling with the drama that you're actually watching. And so yes, it's going to be very interesting, because now from a mystical understanding, we hold to the idea that that all is mind. By this, what do we mean? We mean that there is only mind and nothing else. There is only I. To go to the religious text, if we were to say the I am, that is that, and there is nothing else. It is only the I am that exists. There is no life outside the I am. And that vibration and motion are expressions of the mind. Those are the thoughts of the mind. We are thoughts. We are the sparks that are firing in the mind of the ground of being. And further add to that mind, it is not something out there. It's not something you can travel to. It's not at a heaven you'll one day fly to, or take a rocket to fly to it. It is something that we are a part of. There is only one mind, meaning that voice I hear without a mouth, the ear that can listen without ears, the eyes that can see without these, whether sleeping or in trance, or those eyes, we hold to the idea that that is the ground of being. That is the ground of being. That is why it becomes easy to recognize the God in the other person, because it comes from that understanding that anything else outside of here, these are just expressions. These are mirror images. Matter mirrors qualities in quantities. Matter mirrors the qualities of the ground of being, the still ground of being. It mirrors it in quantities, but the quantities can never be the quality that is the ground of being. The ground of being being the unobservable observer. That realization that actually there isn't anything else observing behind me. I can't turn around and see it because I am it. There's nothing else besides that. And now on top of the realization now that everything happens, that there's this axiom that they say that all this is an illusion, or or our brain hallucinates all that we see around us. Hallucinating it in a sense where, let me start by this quote. I think I first heard it on from Alan Watts, and then I later picked it up on a track by Bishop Nehru. Is it Bishop? Yes, Bishop Nehru, where he says, if a tree falls and there's no one around to hear it, does it make a sound? Like that type of thinking. For example, what the eye is seeing. Am I seeing what is out there, or am I seeing what the electrical signals that are interpreted by my brains, the image that they are showing me? Am I seeing that, or am I seeing reality? And the answer is, we never see what is actually happening, because it is the brain that creates the image for the unobservable observer to be able to what? To be able to perceive. And that is why they say we hallucinate our reality. There's a house in front of me right now. It is the image that hits the back of my retina. Then through the optic nerve, electrically now, that information goes to the brain, and then it's converted into a image. Light waves coming through the eye and hit the back of the retina. Photosynthetic cells, then they will translate that information, those light waves or those angles of light, into an electrical signal through the optic nerve to your brain. Then the brain translates it to an image. So we we see what our brain tells us we are seeing. And at no moment do you look while in this state. But of course, once one gets emathongweni, when you are using those other eyes and then or operating outside of the flesh, then you are seeing. I'd like to believe you are seeing reality for what it is. But as it is, using the eyes like that, you are not seeing reality. And even in what we are seeing, it is a very small spectrum of light. I mean, in the visible light spectrum, it's between 380 nanometers to, I think, 750 nanometers. And then through certain band, you can expand it to the ranges of animals. But even there, it is still just partially there. That is all we see. We just see within that range, and of course that range being the 7-color spectrum. Infrared and X-ray, we cannot see it, and everything else that is happening. And so if we were to try and contextualize, if we were to say use 360 degrees, we are only seeing, or we are only experiencing, rather, while we're in the flesh. I wouldn't even say we're even experiencing 5 degrees based on what the senses are picking up. Which is a good thing. It's not a negative thing. It's a good thing, because to be in the flesh, you need to be able to zone into what you need, because just as the same as if when you bang all the keys, for example, in this like in this instrument, if you do this, if you do that to the keys, or if you slam all the keys on a keyboard, it's just going to be that sound that does not make sense. And if you were to be able to sense everything, you'd basically walk around a raw nerve. Like, it would be too much. Yes, the brain is powerful, but to operate at that level, it would just be too much. So yes, there's actually nothing wrong with being limited to that spectrum of sensing. There's nothing wrong with it. That is what makes the human journey more interesting, because we sense But at the same time, we know that there is more to there is more to what we are seeing than there is more to what we are seeing than what we are sensing. We have the idea, we understand that very well, that there is more to this, but we cannot see it, but it's there. Which means, now as a caution, understanding that as a human being, I am only limited to this small visible spectrum of senses. Making conclusions about the rest of what is happening, about the experience now in its totality, only based on that little range that the senses give us. It is dangerous. It is dangerous. It lands us in a lot of hot water, especially now where you are, where you start where there's now ideas that have been now formulated into religious beliefs. It becomes dangerous. It becomes dangerous. We become a society that relies way too heavily on the information that we get from the senses. I don't want to call it knowledge because it is formation. It is forms. It is forms. It is not knowledge, because knowledge only is that state of the ground of being. Only that state is knowledge. Only that state is life, or equates to life. Everything else is a negation. The expression ultimately is a negation of life. The motion, unyagaza, it is actually a negation of life, because in that motion, the transverse wave forms. In that motion, to use a sine wave, this is the longitudinal axis. You will go up, come down, go up, come down. It translates to that. And so in that wave, or that sine wave, or that sin of Eve, if you will, that is where now you find the problem of sin. Because there's for there to be vibration, there has to be what? Duplicity. There has to be thesis, antithesis. There has to be these two poles which look like, to the eyes, which looks like they are fighting against each other, but in their expression that appears to be fighting against each other, they are actually completing two separate functions in one holistic system. Ngesintu now, Babu Mutwa, when he speaks about these two poles, he calls the one pole river time and the other one the no-thingness. These twin poles that come together through each other to create the little spark. The little spark, of course, being umveli, or idlozi, the electricity. The electricity now that splits in two directions and begets all life. That is why the Bible says everything was created through the word, because that little spark is the word. It is that I don't want to say dualistic, because a lot of people, when they hear dualistic, they think it's separate. It is one thing, just like us having two halves of our brains, just like us, it can be interpreted as two halves, but ultimately it's actually one thing. And so these twin poles of electricity, or river time and the no thing, that actually get everything going, they look like they're fighting, but they're actually not. And so with that understanding of what reality is, that is how now the religious system built the understanding that being in the flesh is sinful. From the deeper understanding that because if you're in the flesh, we are in the world of motion. To take this into astrology a bit, this split now, they hold it to happen in the house. It starts in the house of the bull. You know the bull in motion. You know the bull. The bull pulls the yoke. That is motion. That is motive force. The splitting apart starts there, but it is fully expressed in Gemini. That is why the twins in the older in the older forms representing the astrology symbols, the twins look like they are in shock and they are reaching out to each other. Their arms are open like that, as if they are reaching out to each other to do what? To re-embrace. Because to be in duality is to not be in balance. Because now these two forces, they pull and they strain against each other to try and do what? To try and find balance. That is why in the scriptures it says, be still and know that I am God. Because it is only in the stillness, in the equilibrium, that is where the ground of being is. Where energy and matter subsist, unconditioned, unformed, unpotentialized, if I can put it like that. And then Gesintu, metaphysically, we would call that state Ntu, or we would call it Nut, or we would call it Manchu, depending on where you place the sexes aspect. But what I'm actually trying to say that in the equilibrium, there are no sexes. In that state of equilibrium, there are no sexes because there is nothing quantified. For there to be a sex, there must be quanta. Matter and energy must be expressed in motion. Then that gets us quanta. But in that stillness, it only subsists as a quality, not as a quanta. And so it is from that understanding of reality and the ground of being that I say it's going to be interesting what virtual reality is actually going to present to humanity at large. As I just tried highlighting the fact that already we hold to the idea that we hallucinate. We are hallucinating already what we see. Or this is the dream. Or even in our walk, in our day to day, we are still in that state where someone is looking out into a projected image, just as we are sitting in the couch looking into a movie. And it's going to get very interesting. It's going to get very interesting, and we shouldn't fear it. We shouldn't fear it. We should embrace it, because in some aspects, for a lot of people, it's also going to be a platform where they can loosen the tight blinkers that society gives us. You enter a world where you can be any sex you want. You can be anything. You can be a giant ogre. You can be a mermaid. You enter into that space and you interact with other people in that space. Outside the dictates and the judgments of the normal world. The images alone that I play there. For example, like I tried highlighting earlier, that if you're from a Christian context and then now you're in this virtual reality that is introducing you to the idea of fairies, the idea of ogres, and which is quite interesting that that fundamental Christianity actually forbids it, that do not get involved with games, and it is satanic. It is just of the pits, but the wealth that has been amassed by their cultures through the slaughter of people of color. We never address that, but a TV game is just you've sold your soul to the devil. That is the idea. But now in the world that we are living in, I won't even say approaching, we are living in, where we are spending more time at home, which means more people are going to get into virtual reality in the comfort of their homes, and they're going to be able to explore. And of course, in that virtual reality, just as it is now, we went from congregating to doing Zoom churches. Churches are also going to what? They're also going to gravitate towards that direction. You're going to have virtual churches. The Hebrew Israelites have already started with the animations of the Black Yahweh or the Black Yahawashi. So you can have a sermon straight from the mouth of God. Someone can create a form of Yahweh or Yahawashi, and you can hear straight from the mouth of God. And you can have a suit where everything vibrates when God speaks, and it goes as God speaks to you. Those are the things that are going to be. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy. I don't want to try to sound excited. All I'm saying is it's going to be crazy. Maybe I am, but yeah, it's going to be crazy. And with that said, it's also going to open up a lot of doors pertaining to now our psyche. Some of us, it may lead to them derailing in reality or in the day-to-day life. It may lead to that, and we need to be ready for it. Our healers, we need to be ready for it. That is another layer now that is actually coming into our world, where you are. It is not just the reality of around the person; it's also images that the person has as well from this new reality that they live from a day to day. And I would actually like to encourage us as abantu who are, whether you're a spiritualist or whatever is you call yourself, that do not say, I'm not engaging in this. Because if you do that, or you're busy telling people that do not engage in virtual reality, when it becomes a thing, you're going to be that guy in 1999 who was telling us social media and Facebook is of the devil. You can be that guy, but why you don't want to be that guy. So what I'm trying to say is, let's just approach things for what they are, not from an extreme position, and not from a point of disgust or saying, no, I don't want to be part of this. We need to be able to get in there, see what it's like, so that when you come across abantu, when you have to help people that might be suffering from the effects of maybe spending too much time, or the images planted in the psyche, deep in the psyche now, they just start a life of its own. I don't want to get too technical. It starts creating a life of its own, where now, whether they're in the game or they are dreaming, it is just one reel that doesn't stop. We're gonna need to be able to recognize it and pick it up and know how to help them. And of course, you can't help if you've never experienced it. You can't help if you've never experienced it. And so, yes, guys, that's what I had for you today. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And yeah, abalandeli belanga.